discourage Alyssa Thomas from making some of her great passes.
No one picks up Clark, who cans the three.
All throughout the 2024 season, it was painfully obvious. Caitlin Clark wasn't just boosting the WNBA. She was single-handedly dragging it out of poverty, Bill USA. On the court, she shattered records. Off the court, she dragged eyeballs to screens and butts into seats like a one-woman marketing firm. Viewership records, attendance records, merchandise records. And we're not talking small bumps. This was an earthquake. A league that once struggled to fill a high school gym was suddenly selling out NBA arenas. And guess what? That's why the WNBA just secured a $2.2 billion media rights deal. That's why, for the first time in history, WNBA players are about to see real money in their contracts when the new collective bargaining agreement gets signed. And yet, despite all of this, despite every number screaming the obvious, there are still players, owners, and media heads doing full-blown PR gymnastics to pretend that Caitlin isn't the reason for this shift. The mental hurdles they're jumping to avoid giving her credit could qualify for an Olympic event. And now, we've got what might be the most ridiculous example of this yet, brought to you by the Atlanta Dream. It's like catching a kid with chocolate all over their hands, swearing they didn't touch the cookie jar. Unless there's more to this story, the Dream ownership sure looks like they're cashing in on Caitlin, and the fan reaction is absolutely priceless. Is this just the beginning? Are we in for another year of people twisting themselves into knots, trying to rewrite reality? Let's get into it. But first, hit that like button if you already know the haters are going to try taking credit for Caitlin's success. All right, so as you know, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever just had an absolute monster of an offseason. First, they gave Christy Sides her walking papers and brought in Stephanie White, a major coaching upgrade. They locked down Kelsey Mitchell to keep their sharpshooter in Indy. And then they locked down Kelsey Mitchell to keep their sharpshooter in Indy. And then they hit free agency like a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball, stacking the roster with Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner, and Sydney Colson. Fever fans aren't just excited, they're getting championship tingles. And the hype? It's already breaking the sound barrier. They sold out a preseason game, yes, preseason, against a Brazilian squad featuring players you've likely never heard of. The momentum Caitlin built last season isn't just carrying over, it's escalating. You know how they say absence makes the heart grow fonder? Well, Caitlin turned down unrivaled, making this the longest break she's had from playing since 2023. And now, fans have some serious withdrawal. Speaking of withdrawals, teams across the league are about to cash in again on the Caitlin Clark effect. Last season, it was estimated that 1 in 6 tickets sold were because of Caitlin. She didn't just sell out Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where Fever home games averaged over 17,000 fans per night, a 400% increase from the year before. She sold out everywhere she played. Teams, recognizing this, upgraded their venues to NBA-sized arenas. The Mystics moved their Fever games to Capital One Arena. The Aces upgraded to T-Mobile Arena. The Dream shifted their Fever matchups to State Farm Arena, home of the Hawks. You don't need a PhD in economics to figure out what's happening here. Every one of these moves was because of Caitlin Clark, and every single one of them was made to cash in on the tidal wave of people willing to throw their hard-earned paper money at tickets just to watch her play. Is it a little embarrassing for WNBA teams to admit that their biggest crowds show up for their opponent? Sure, but that's reality. And if the league wants to thrive, and if teams want to make actual money, teams would be foolish not to upgrade their venue. Heck, maybe they should try an NFL stadium. I wouldn't be surprised if they sold out. Anyway, the Caitlin Clark money printer is back online, and teams are getting ready to collect. Of all teams, it was the Chicago Sky that just pulled the most obvious move of the season. They moved their Fever games, and only their Fever games, to the United Center home of the Bulls. That's a 21,000-seat arena. And guess what? It sold out in 1 minute. Honestly, at this point, they could probably move the games to Soldier Field and still pack the house. And I'm not even joking. Caitlin Clark has that kind of gravitational pull. Nothing like this has ever been seen in this league. And if you're a women's basketball fan, you have to be hyped to see this level of love for the game. But here's where it gets hilarious.